And we're glad to have you here with us alongside certified financial planner Mike Douglas, a.k.a. Michigan's retirement coach. I'm Heather Branch here asking Mike about things we need to know about when it comes to planning for our financial futures. Some people call it the second phase of our financial life, which is legit considering some people spend 40 years in retirement as long as they did in the working world. So better get that money straight, son.
Mm-hmm. Gotta know.
Gotta know. And you're here to tell us. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is where you can find more, learn more, get in touch with Mike and his team. You can also click on the links we got posted in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Michigan's Retirement Coach on YouTube to find us there. One of the big conversations that how often do you people say, is it every meeting where somebody says to you, okay, what about 401k rollovers?
It happens a ton.
Yeah.
Especially now. So for a long time, the rule was you just work at your job forever. Then whenever you're done, you roll over a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
Now people leave their jobs a lot.
Yeah.
And so with people leaving their jobs, there's these old sitting out there 401ks.
I heard somebody call it your orphaned 401ks. I was like, that is a great way to put it.
Yeah. It's the old 401ks that I should really do something about that.
People forget about them. I have several coworkers, more than 2 people that I worked with in the past 2 years that have admitted they discovered an old 401k sitting at a past employer they've totally forgot about.
Yeah, it's just sitting out there. And we don't know what to do with them. So what do? We do nothing with them. We avoid it because we don't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, when at some point down the road, you have to gather all these things. And the people's fear is that they're going to lose them. You're not going to lose them, but you will have to put them together at some point. So that's one of the things people don't understand the rules of.
Okay.
When I leave and they think, if I take it out of the 401k, I have to pay taxes on it, or I'm going to pay a fee or a penalty. If
you've left the job, there's no penalty, right?
Yeah, you just roll it over. There's a couple options.
Okay.
So when you leave your current job and you go to a new job, oftentimes you get a new 401k after so long, although with the new laws, you basically can get in right away.
Mm-hmm.
And the new 401k company will tell you, hey, why don't you just roll that thing in with us and we'll take it. So let's say you got 50 grand sitting in an old 401k and you go start your new job. Your company's like, just bring it over here. That way you got 50 grand in your new 401k. And it sounds great.
It sounds like a good idea.
It does. And there are benefits to having a 401k. You can do things like take a 401k loan where you pay yourself the interest back. You have someone else be a fiduciary in terms of picking out the investments for you. So there are some benefits to it. On the other hand, there's a lot of limitations to a 401k. There's only so many investment options out there. If you say, I want to buy Tesla stock, you typically cannot do that in a 401k. If you have a feeling, you say, hey, actually, I'm kind of enjoying investing a little bit. I want to get more involved. You really can't in a 401k. They give you about 20 funds and say, here's all you can choose from. And they're extremely generic.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it can be better that when you have this old 401k and you start the new job and you're building up here, great. What you do is you take that old 401k, you roll it into a rollover IRA where you can invest it in whatever you want. When you roll it to an IRA, there are no tax consequences as long as the investment goes from custodian to custodian, where it goes directly from maybe Empower or Prudential, whoever had your 401k, directly to Schwab, Fidelity, wherever it goes. So that's a direct transfer, and there's no tax consequences. There's no pre-59.5 rule. There's no penalties for it. You put it over in the new account, and now you can choose, do I want someone to help me manage it, or do I want to do it myself? And if you say, I want to do it myself, great. You've got $50,000 and you go through and you pick funds and you do your research, you do it. Or if you say, I want to be able to invest in more creative things, I just don't want to do it. You can work with an advisor. An advisor can help you go through and pick out funds. Either one is a good decision. It just depends on what you want to do. If you are passionate about investing, that's the best thing you can do. Put it in there, and now you can do all types of stuff. You can do some leveraged or inverse or whatever you want to do to be creative, because you're not beholden to the rules of the 401k. So that's a really cool thing to do with an old 401k, especially when you start working. And so now I get this kind of like institutional one from my current 401k plus my creative, my opportunity money of what you're investing in. When you retire from work the last time and you want to move that money and you say, now that I'm done working, I want to get it into a retirement account. That way I can live off of it and do all the things. That's oftentimes what happens too, is you retire, you meet with somebody, they decide, you create a relationship and you decide that's gonna be my financial advisor. They roll the accounts over. There's a couple things that are worthy of note. if you are not 59 and a half, if you retire a few years early, let's say you're 56 years old and you want to retire and you need money from your account.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one that people often don't know.
Okay.
If you leave it in the 401k, you can take income out of it without paying the 10% penalty for being underage.
Younger than, okay.
Yep.
Why? How?
Because there's a provision the IRS has that says if you're 55 or older and you have a 401k, you can pull from that 401k if you have separated service, no longer working, you can pull from that account without a 10% penalty. If you roll it over to a rollover IRA and you're 56 years old, you pay a 10% penalty.
Okay, so as long as you leave it in the existing 401k that you have established with your employer that you're retiring from.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just had someone who retired with about 1.2 million. And when he retired, we were walking through it and he says, well, I'm 55. I've got 1.2. And as they're building their plan out, we realized they needed about $70,000 a year to supplement plus his pension, plus his all the other stuff because he didn't get Social Security yet. We needed $70,000 a year for the next 5 years until he was able to get everything kicked in. So what we did is we left $400,000 in the 401k. And then we put the balance over into a rollover IRA so we could set up a retirement portfolio for him. That $400,000 staying in the 401k, he was able to pull out the $70,000 he needed a year. Okay. Because remember, he wanted $70,000 net. Okay. So we had to pull that out. He got it, no 10% penalty, while his other investments were allowed to grow and be more creative than the 401k would ever offer him. Okay. So there's these different rules. But when you retire, once you're fully retired, you roll the money out directly to an institution. Don't put it in your bank. Don't do anything like that. It needs to go directly to an IRA somewhere so there's no taxes. If someone cuts you a check and you deposit in your bank, you've got a very, very hard clock of 60 days. That money has to end up in an IRA somewhere. Otherwise, the whole thing's taxable. So there's some risk to rolling money over if you do it wrong. So you want to make sure you're doing it under wise counsel. Yeah. If you have any questions on how that is, shoot us a message, do whatever else. If you say, I don't understand how to roll things over, put a comment, reach out to us, michigansretirementcoach.com. There's a button on there that says start your retirement roadmap. If you click on that, it's going to ask you questions to say, I don't know how to roll over money, and we'll help you because you just don't want to do the one mistake. And I tell people all the time, if you go from custodian to custodian, if you go from your 401 straight to Schwab or Fidelity, there's no way it will be a taxable event. There's no way, if it's done properly, that you could get on the hook for taxes on $1 million. But because you never get control of it. It's going from one managed account in your 401k over to Schwab, Fidelity, whatever it is that you choose. You're never in it. You're just putting it from one institution to the other. Yeah. But if you just reach out to your 401k and say, all right, hey, send me a check for the money and then I'm going to go deposit in the bank. Now you're in control of it. And so you are on the hook. And they cut Heather Branch, they cut Mike Douglas, they cut one of us a check. It's my 401k. They cut Mike Douglas a check for $1 million because that's what's in my 401k. I deposit it in my bank. This 60-day clock starts running. Tomorrow, I walk out of my house and I get hit by a pickle truck and I'm incapacitated for 61 days. You neglected to mention to your wife. I didn't tell Kimberly about it because I'm like, I got it handled. I got this. Yeah. And so then day 61, I didn't get that money into an IRA. Yeah. All $1 million is taxable. This year, like I earned it, and 40% of our money has gone to taxes. Gee. And there's no undoing that. There's no undoing it. And so it's just to bring it to yourself and then to go to somebody is so, again, the odds of the pickle truck are low. But it's an unnecessary risk. Right. Like we can mitigate that risk right away. Just send the check from there to there. Don't even touch me. Right. It needs to go from there to Schwab for the benefit of Mike Douglas. And that's it. And there's no way. So it's a avoidable risk. Yeah. But people just need to understand that process and what that looks like. Yeah. You also need to make sure that whoever is suggesting you take money out of a 401k, that that they're licensed to give you the right information about that. Okay. How do you know that? So what does it look like? So a law just passed a couple years ago that said insurance salesmen can't suggest you sell out of your 401k to go into an annuity if they are not actually a fiduciary. Because insurance salesmen, if you're wondering, it's like, what does an insurance salesman have to do with my retirement plan? Many insurance salespeople sell annuity products, which are retirement
tools to generate income. They work like pensions.
Yes. And so what they would do is, so imagine this. I am not a mechanic. I'm terrible with cars. It's well documented. I've shared on this podcast that I'm mechanically declined. I don't do anything on my own.
Yeah.
Right. And then I go to you and I say, you know what car, and it's such a bad example because I don't even know enough about cars to make a good mechanic analogy. But it's like, imagine I'm giving you advice on how to fix your car.
Yeah.
And the solution to that is to buy the car I'm selling. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I love my realtor because when we go through houses, he used to be a builder. Mm-hmm. And so when he makes suggestions to me, it's not as a realtor who's selling, it's as someone who used to build.
Yeah.
So he really understands the depths of it.
Yeah.
So I come to you and I say, don't buy this car. It's got mechanical problems, this and that. Oh yeah. How do you fix those mechanical problems? Take it to the mechanic. But if you come to me, I'll sell you a car that's better. I'm not even licensed or I'm not even appropriately informed to give you that information.
Okay.
That's what the Department of Labor decided.
Okay.
The DOL came through and said, if you aren't a licensed securities person, if you're not licensed to talk about the stock market, how can you possibly recommend someone sells their 401k out of the stock market to go into an annuity? Mm-hmm. Now, I am not saying annuities are bad, wrong, whatever.
No,
they are good for some people. They're wrong for some people.
In your company, yeah.
Yeah, we use them if it's appropriate and it's the right kind and if it's the right person. Mm-hmm. But blanket statements are never good when it comes to financial recommendations.
Right.
But when someone comes in and says, well, you should sell out of a 401k and put this into annuity. Oh, well, what if I put it into a stock portfolio? I'm not really licensed to talk to you about stocks. Well, then how can you suggest I sell these mutual funds to go into your annuity?
Right.
So that's one of the issues the Department of Labor had. And they passed a law saying if you're not a fiduciary, you can't recommend it.
Okay.
You have to prove that your fees are worth it, that the fee you're about to pay for this brokerage account, this annuity, this whatever is worth it.
Okay.
And you have to make a case.
Yeah.
So know that whoever is giving you this advice, what is their licensing? What is their accountability tool? Are they a fiduciary or are they just a salesperson? Are they licensed to talk about what they're talking about? Mm-hmm. Is their fee worth it is another great question to ask, because some people charge a very low fee, and sometimes for low fees, you get cheap service. Other times someone charges a premium fee and you get premium service and it's worth it. So it's just a matter of figuring out where it falls and what you want to do. Mm-hmm. I think those are the biggest things. And also understanding that at some point you have to take money out of this 401k. So if you are going to self-manage it and you are going to maintain it all yourself, know the rules about required minimum distributions, because at some point the government comes calling for their taxes and you've never paid taxes on this money and they want it. So do not fall in the mistake of, well, I'll just self-manage, and since I don't need this money, I'll just let it grow. You have to start taking money out at age 73, and that age is changing to age 75 in about 10 years. So know the rules, know the fees, know the licensing and credentials, and that will help you make a good decision. So should you roll it over? Probably. Should I roll all of it over?
Maybe.
Not if you need, maybe.
Not if you need,
not if you need money.
Unless you need the income. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the problem. There's no definitive answer.
Right.
Should I? I don't know. We should talk, right? Like, let's have coffee and talk about it, because that's the thing. If someone comes on and says, you have to do this, I'm like, how can you tell me that if of the 300 million people or whatever who are on YouTube, or billion people who are on YouTube, that every single person
should do this,
should follow this recommendation?
Yeah.
Get the heck out of here. No, that's not how it works. So it's about being specific. Yeah. So I just think the conversations need to be had and information needs to be. That's why we do this channel, is to create content to inform people. And in those who need questions answered, they reach out and we talk all the time. So MichigansRetirementCoach.com is what it's there for.
All of this came up because the stat that I meant to throw in earlier, but it was wild to read. This study from InvestorCom was saying people wanting advice on rolling over 401ks to personal IRAs was up 150%. 150% higher interest. I'm not sure what the time frame was. I think it was year to year. So the financial rollover advice charges 150% at top wealth management firms. Yeah. And that totaled up to about $760 billion worth of rollovers. People.
Yeah.
Because the other thing I was thinking about when you were bringing up the idea of rolling over the 401ks to a personalized IRA, or for if you you start with your new employer and they've got a 401k program there and they're like, oh, you have an old 401k, we'll just roll it over into our 401k plan, because of course they will, because they want that money that they can charge you fees on. Mm-hmm. And how many people don't simply know that they are in fact allowed to, without tax or penalty, open their own account at Fidelity or Vanguard or whatever you want to do, and roll that IRA, roll that old 401k into their own personalized self-managed account. I just think a lot of people have no idea they even have that option, because we hear all of these things all the time about don't mess up rolling over your 401k from your old employer. You're going to get taxed. You're going to get charged slap of fees. We get the scare tactics, and we don't want to mess up.
I just kicked the camera. Did you see that?
You're doing great. You're killing it today. Speaking of messing things up, we don't want to mess it up.
We think there's two options. My 401k will do it, or I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this third option, which says I have a 401k, I roll to a self-directed IRA, and then I work with someone who knows me and who knows my portfolio and builds it for me. That's actually the third option, one I tend to lean towards, as you can imagine, as an advisor. I think that. But and from all reality, now, if you love it, you should never pay a fee to do it.
Right. If you're 40 years old.
Yeah, if you're an engineer,
you're into it.
If you're a nerd like me and you enjoy this crap, well, then do it yourself and don't pay a fee.
But also, maybe if you're a nerd like Mike, reach out to him too, because you guys should just sit there and nerd out together. He loves it. It's his favorite thing.
That's really true.
Nothing makes him happier.
No, but do that. Don't pay a fee for something you enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not a mechanic, pay someone to change your oil.
Okay.
Pay someone to do the things that keeps your car running. And that's kind of what we're talking about here.
All right. So we also want to talk about avoiding common rollover mistakes.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Did we hit all of those?
Common rollover mistakes. Yeah. Overlooking fees.
Did we hit neglected required minimum distributions?
Yep. Know that those are coming. And then I guess not considering Roth options is the one. So once it gets over to your own IRA, that's another problem. When you go into a 401k, it's in a 401k. They're starting to offer Roth 401ks, but very few companies are doing it. It's becoming more. If you want to take advantage of the fact that tax brackets are historically low right now, then you should be considering taking some of that money that's in your rollover. So 401k, you roll it to your own IRA. Now that it's here and I have my own IRA, you can take some of that money, convert it into Roth, and it will grow tax-free forever.
So what about the rules? Because there are rules out there about your own Roth IRA and individual Roth IRA. And if you make a certain amount of income, you can't do your own.
That is new money.
Does that not? That's new money. So that doesn't count when we're talking about an existing 401k. You can roll a 401k, even if you make $500,000 a year. If you're leaving your high-tech job at one high-tech employer, $500,000 a year, to go make another $600,000 at this one, and you've got your old 401k, you can roll it into a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
But so are there tax consequences that count towards your? This is
it's
getting
all
complicated,
ordinary
Mike.
income this year. Yeah, so you bring it into your IRA.
Say you're a big earner and you've saved $1 million in just a couple of years at a big job, and you're going over to another big job, and so you want to roll that savings money over into a Roth IRA. Does that all get looked at as that year's income?
So what happens is you want to go from 401k to IRA. Yeah. Now that it's in the IRA, if you want to do Roth conversion, right? Because if you're a high earner, there's a contribution limit. Once you're above about $220,000 of income, you cannot contribute money from your bank into your Roth IRA. But you can convert IRA over. That's why they call the backdoor Roth conversion, is because you put money into an account you can, and then you just convert it. So you can convert as much as you want, but every dollar you convert is taxed as ordinary income this year.
Okay.
So you want to figure out the appropriate ratios of what should go over, and also look at the life of your taxes and figure out how much my taxes will be in the future projected, and does it make sense to do it now or should I do it later? Those are all conversations we had, and that kind of goes back to, if you love it, you can learn it. That's why we have channels like ours. But most people say once you get into taxes and the tax code and stuff,
complicated.
I need my nerd. I need a nerd. And then they call us.
I need my nerd, Mike.
Yep. And then we talk it through and help you understand it. So that's it. Those are the big ones right there.
When it comes to 401k and our IRA rollovers and the rules that could affect you, the taxes involved, the fees that may be involved, the risk that you don't realize you're taking by taking control of it in your checking account for 60 days, all of these things, there is a lot to digest and understand and know, but Mike is here to go through these rules with you on an individual level. MichigansRetirementCoach.com is where you can start the conversation, understanding your 401k IRA rollover options. We also have links posted in the show notes, so just click there. Godspeed to you, you rollover guru, you can do it. But Mike's here to help. MichigansRetirementCoach.com.